All right, welcome back to WMAC Now with your host, Chuck Stevenson, coming at you with a fight preview. So we're going to Singapore for 163. We're going to the one Atomweight division, which is 115 pounds. Itsuki Hirata coming in at 6-1, taking on number 2 ranked Seo Hee coming in at 25-8. And you're probably looking at the picture and thinking, well, if Ham's ranked, why is Hirata getting the higher billing? Well, this is a card that is primarily aimed at the Japanese audience. Every main card bout has a Japanese fighter on it. And one championship streams in Japan through a Wmma TV. And one championship gets higher ratings when Itsuki Hirata fights versus when she doesn't. So she's honestly their biggest Japanese star right now. So that's why she's getting the higher billing over the ranked and far more experienced Ham. But I think this is an interesting fight. It's going to be an interesting clash of styles. A lot of people are already favoring Ham to win it. I don't think it's necessarily going to be that easy, though. So I think it's going to be a good fight. Let's go ahead and get into it. First, let's take a look at the stats on this one. So Android 18 coming in at 6-1. Hamderlei Silva coming in at 25-8. Now, Hirata's coming in off of a win over Lin He-Chin about a month and a half ago. Personally, I disagreed with that decision. Before that, she lost a split decision to Jean Radzuan 6 months ago. Now, Ham last fought in March at 1X, where she picked up a unanimous decision win over Denise Sambawanga. She hasn't lost since, I want to say, 2015. Let me check here real quick. Ham's last loss was in November of 2016 when she was still in the UFC, and she's on a really nice win streak since then. Look at the age difference here. This could play a big factor here. Ham is 35, and Hirata is 12 years younger at 23. So that could play a big factor in this fight here. They're about the same size, 5 feet 2 inches tall. Now, Ham looks like it has 1 centimeter of height at 158 to 157 for Hirata. The reach is virtually identical as well, 62.6 inch, 159 centimeters for Hirata to 62 inches, 157 centimeters for Ham. So those are your stats. So let's talk about each of these fighters. Let's start with Ham. She is the higher ranked fighter. So she has years, I'm talking years, of both MMA and striking sports experience. I mean, she's literally fought a who's who of atomweight fighters. And she's faced a wide variety of fight styles across that, 33 fight career. So she's kind of been there and seen it all. So she's going to be bringing all of that experience into the one championship circle on Saturday. Primarily, big things to note is that she is a southpaw striker, and she is primarily a striker. She likes to use her lead hand, her right hand, and instead of just like jabbing it out all the time, like most strikers, they like to just jab. Ham is less of a jabber and more of a pawer. She paws that lead hand out, will grab on to her opponent's lead hand, and she likes to use that hand to both find her range and to open up for the big left. So she'll even sometimes grab onto her opponent's lead hand with her lead, and then that opens up for her power left hand. And that's her primary striking style, although she's also uses a variety of kicks and everything else. And one thing I always mention about Ham is that, even though she's known primarily as a striker, she has an overall underrated ground game. She has good takedown defense, very good submission defense, will hunt for the triangle from bottom. If she gets tossed to the bottom, She's very good at tossing up a triangle and trapping her opponents. Can't remember the last time she has a sub win, or if she even has one. But overall, her ground game is very underrated. Also, good ground and pound from top as well. And then finally, with Ham, because of those years of experience, she's not the type of fighter who ever gets like phased or panicked or even necessarily frustrated in a fight. Like, she might be put into trouble positions in a fight, but unlike some fighters who will panic or just get frustrated and then try to, muscle their way through it, Ham's patient. She doesn't get phased. She doesn't freak out in trouble positions. And part of that is because of those years of experience. So that's Ham. Let's talk about Hirata. Well, Hirata is primarily a judoka. All about judo. And she has integrated her style of judo into MMA well. She knows exactly what she wants to do when she gets into the cage. And she spends her entire time implementing that game plan. She's almost a specialist. You could almost say she's a specialist, but she tends to change up her variety a little bit more than most specialists. But she primarily looks to go into the cage and do a variation of the same plan every time, which is to get her opponent to the cage, look for the takedown across against the cage, get the takedown, judo-style takedown, toss or a trip, and really loves to go into a scarf hold position and ground and pound or hunt for submissions from there. Also, like I mentioned earlier, youth is on her side in this bout. She is 12 years younger than Ham. That could easily make an enormous difference in this fight, especially as it goes on longer. Hirata is less likely to gas out at 23 than Ham is at 35. Also, one thing I like about Hirata is that she has learned how to chain her takedowns together properly. She loves to shoot for takedowns like a wrestler. Then if her opponent manages to sprawl on her, she doesn't give up. She drives her opponent forward, drives them to the cage. Once she gets to the cage, she'll give up on, the double leg or single leg, and then we'll go look for her more traditional judo style, like tosses or trips from there. So she's chaining those takedowns together. If she doesn't get the initial one off of the penetration step, then she will drive her opponent to the cage and look for another takedown. Also, big thing, and this really helps Hirata in one championship, she's a hunter. She will hunt for the finish. She doesn't just sit back, look for openings. She will hunt for it. So that's Itsuki Hirata. Now let's talk keys to victory. Starting with Ham again. I think she would do best to stay at range. Stay at range, avoid the clinch. Don't let Hirata get too close for those takedowns. So stay at range, make it harder for her to shoot, make the distance longer for her to shoot for those takedowns, and then even if she doesn't shoot for the takedowns, avoid that clinch, because that's what Hirata wants to get to, is get to that clinch. So Ham's got to avoid that clinch. Also, watch for the takedown setup from Hirata off of the right hand. Hirata loves to throw that overhand right. That's practically the only punch she ever throws. And she throws that overhand right and then will shoot after she throws it. Like, she'll throw it, and as she's curving it, she'll shoot for the takedown off of that. It's basically, she uses it just to distract her opponent. Also, keep her back off of the fence. That's where Hirata does her best work, with her opponent pushed up against the fence. So keep her back off the fence. Also, don't get sloppy. One thing I noticed, especially in the second Zamboanga fight, Ham was getting a little bit sloppy in there with some of her striking. And then getting into clinch positions or positions where she could be taken down. Don't get sloppy in this one. Keep it clean. Now for Hirata's keys to victory, don't give Ham space. Ham is a much better range fighter than Hirata is. Hirata does not want to give her room to work. Keep close. Cut off the cage. Get to the clinch. That's where she does her best work, is in the clinch. So get to the clinch. Get the takedown, of course, and then hunt for those submissions. And biggest thing is on the feet. Watch out for that left hand. Everybody knows that that's Ham's main weapon is that left hand, but try as they might, it's very hard for fighters to avoid it. Key to victory for both, though, is going to be to look for those big moments and seize them when they come. Hirata tends to do that better than Ham does. Ham tends to build as a fight goes on, whereas Hirata's always looking for those big moments, and that could favor her more there. But both need to look for those big moments and seize on them when they get them. Now Ham does seize on big moments when they present themselves, but she tends to build towards them more than Hirata, who's constantly hunting for them. So those are your keys to victory. Now some final notes I have about this. Hirata has spent some time in the U.S. training for this bout. So some questions I have for that. What has she learned? And what did she gain from it? I don't know what gym she was training at, but I know it was in New York, and she said she worked with both striking and grappling specialists, which is good, but then it makes you wonder, well, did she learn how to integrate them both? That's a big question. So what did she really learn in the U.S., and what did she gain from that time there? On the other hand, Ham is trained at her same gym, Team Mad in Busan, at the main gym, and she's been bulking up. She's been looking bulky for this coming into this fight. Will that bulk have an effect on her cardio, and has she adapted to working with that bulk? And keeping with Ham, will age and ring rest have an effect on Ham? Because she is 35 years old, and since November of 2019, she has only fought twice. So this will be her third fight in 3 years. That's a lot of built-up ring rest. Now, she just fought back in March, which isn't that long ago, and she fought in November before that. But there was a long period before that, and March to November, that's 8 months itself. That's a long time to go between fights for some fighters. So will that ring rest have an effect? And will it combine with the age factor? Now, in the pre-fight face-off interview that I posted the video for, and you can go watch it, Hirata said she plans to grapple. Now, I think everyone already figured that she plans to grapple. It's already assumed by most. But, big question, is she giving away the plan? Or is she trying to throw Ham off with that? Is she saying she plans to grapple because, she's sticking with what she knows? Or is she saying that and then she's going to go out there and try to strike with Ham? And she just said that she's going to plan to grapple to throw Ham off and get her ready to constantly defend takedowns when Hirata's going to come out to try to strike. I have my doubts that she'll try to do that. But it does make you wonder. A lot of fighters like to play head games. Big question here. And this might be the biggest question in this fight. What does Itsuki Hirata, who only has 7 fights to her name, at 23 years old, what does Hirata bring to the fight that Ham hasn't seen before? Because like I said, Ham, she's been there, she's seen it, she's fought all kinds of fighters. You might think, well, when was the last time Ham fought a judoka? Well, that's easy. That's Ayaka Hamasaki. She got by narrowly. But Ham, made her reputation fighting a lot of Japanese judoka early on. So what is Itsuki Hirata going to bring differently to this fight that Ham hasn't seen before? That's going to be the biggest question. And then my final question. We've had a string lately of fighters who were basically lined up for a title shot, but because there was going to be a wait for that title shot, they got impatient. They said, well, I got to stay busy. So they took these stay busy fights and ended up losing. Joanne Calderwood lost that way. Marina Rodriguez just 2 weeks ago lost the title shot because she didn't want to wait. She wanted to stay busy. Ham's basically next for the one champion, Angela Lee, right now. Could this hurt her by choosing to fight and stay active instead of waiting for it? Because I get it. You don't want to have to basically go a full year between fights when you've already sat for how long? So I get it. But is that trend going to carry on in this fight? So those are my final notes on this fight. So now I got to make a pick. And listen, I will admit, I am 100% biased towards Seo Hee Ham. She's my favorite fighter, period, dot. However, putting that aside, even putting my favoritism towards her aside, I would still have a hard time picking Itsuki Hirata to win this. Does she have avenues to win? Yes, she certainly does. Especially if she can, she might end up landing a big right hand again, like she did against Lin Ha-Chin. She might land a big throw and come close to a sub, or she might get some ground and pound, and that's going to look like she's close to finishing, and that's going to score big on the one scoring system. So she definitely has roads to win. But when you combine every other factor going into this fight, aside from also she is younger, but when you take those two factors aside, what else does she have to offer, and why? What incentive is there to pick against Ham? I mean, even 80% of the Japanese fans on a Wmma TV have picked Ham to win in a poll that they ran. So, even putting aside my bias towards her, I'd have to go Seo Hee Ham. She has the experience. She has the skill. She has the defense against fighters like Hirata. And unless Hirata comes in super yoked and is just able to outmuscle Ham everywhere, I have a hard time seeing her really getting a win here. I have a hard time... I don't see her finishing Ham. I certainly don't see her finishing Ham. She'd have to go to decision. And I actually see Ham as having more ways to win, because Ham is more likely to hurt Hirata with striking and get a TKO than Hirata is. I don't see Ham getting a sub, but Ham can easily win a decision here, and she can, get a TKO or even a straight up knockout. So my pick is going to be Seo Hee Ham. So those are my thoughts on this fight. Itsuki Hirata versus Ham Seo Hee goes down at 163 this coming Saturday, early in the morning in the U.S. Saturday evening if you're in Asia. Go to onefc.com to find local listings. I know in the U.S. it's for free on YouTube. Elsewhere, go to onefc.com and check the local listings. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Who are you picking? Let me know in the comments. If you liked the video, please give it a like. Share it as well. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to WMMAC Now, the best, most complete women's mixed martial arts dedicated platform on YouTube. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.